Hello and welcome to the RPG Blokes podcast. Now, we've spent a lot of time telling you why you should play, but today we thought we'd show you how. Well, our version of how anyway. We're diving into a live play, and specifically a session 0. For those new to the hobby, this is where the magic, or in this case, the blood, starts to flow. We're incredibly chuffed to be joined by the master of the macabre himself, the law by night. He's here to GM us through the moody, high-stakes world of Vampire the Masquerade. So pull up a chair, dim the lights and join us. Welcome to RPG Blokes, Law by Night.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time zone it is, whether you law in your world. It is your Lord and Saviour, otherwise known as Law by Night. And today, we're going to be talking about some Vampire the Masquerade, the bloated love child within the World of Darkness setting. Take anything that Anne Rice did in her lifetime and smash your Mafia film program of choice into it. Mostly everybody here is on the page of they know fuck all, which is great. I genuinely love that because we're introducing a new system and ideas to people, and hopefully you lot listening and watching at home will get to learn a bit more about the setting as well. And when I've done actual plays in the past, I do approach all these games as if somebody new is playing or watching, because I think that's just more useful and it's more entertaining. So this is a rather nice little marriage, as it were. And we were just talking a little bit about the edition that everybody felt comfortable with. And from the little experience that we have gathered amongst us, it seems that we're going to be tackling some revised edition, which is the third installment of Vampire the Masquerade, and the most recent edition is 5th edition.
But Law by Night, if somebody was to come along and want to get involved with Vampire now, they'd find 3rd edition, everything's available online PDFs, and this is all second-hand market on this stuff. But is it currently being printed, the 5th edition? Is it a live system, so to speak, with new things coming out for it on a regular basis?
Yeah, the company that are developing that at the moment is Renegade Game Studios, and they're sort of releasing books once every couple of months or something. So there's still things being made for the 5th edition. It's print on demand on Drive Through RPG.
Vampire did run into trouble, didn't it? I remember recently. We've talked about the redemption of D&D and how it came out the Dark Ages and accepted as a hobby, because it seems quite easy for people to look at it and see something different to what it really was, which is a game. And Vampire, has it evolved and recovered from that?
I would say after D&D, the World of Darkness has always been under the biggest scrutiny about the connection to real world events. And throughout all of its history, it's always been under some scrutiny by poor integration with real world cultures. There was a thing within the 90s where there was somebody that was using Vampire the Masquerade to try and induct and kill people in some cult he was forming. My understanding, he didn't even play the game. He just used it as a cover-up excuse. More recently, with 5th edition, shortly after the game came out, there was a source book. I believe it was the 5th edition update to one of the main factions in the game called the Camarilla, where it tried to push forward the idea that an ongoing homophobic genocide was being controlled by vampires. And there's lots of writing within Vampire the Masquerade and vampire fiction in general where some ancient vampires are using these things to fuel their motives, and that came under some scrutiny. And there was something else that happened in its companion book for the Anarchs, where they had to be through a reprinting, and every so often White Wolf do get pulled off for their poor integration of real-world topics and cultures and people.
It's a far bigger challenge, isn't it, than D&D have ever had? We're dealing with the real-world system with D&D. At least could say, this is happening in some fantastic high fantasy setting, whereas you guys and what you've achieved with this system as a fan base too is really treading a very much thinner line.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when they're trying to sort of deal with real-world nuances in game, virtually all media is filled with stuff that feels clumsy and awkward and not quite right when people do stream. It isn't unique to our space at all.
I think the other thing that they got into trouble with was if they did anything that was pro anything, it was seen as, what's the word, fetishization. So if you do put a positive spin on a cultural background, they get into trouble for that. You cannot win. And the thing with Vampire is everyone's got the stereotype of the racist granddad at the dinner table. Now, vampires are considerably older than that. or a lot of them anyway.
So you think they should be politically incorrect? That's just the way
I'm
they're
not saying it
be.
should be, but when people are looking at that, looking to criticise, they should bear in mind that those guys are usually the antagonists.
That's right. We like being the good guy. And I suppose Vampire goes against the grain a little bit in that respect. Moving on with the session 0, the idea is that we would create a vampire each, and Lord by Night can help guide us through that, and we can introduce the system in detail to our listeners. And then potentially, once we've got our characters created, we'll play out an initial scene, something that may lead on to something bigger and better.
Yes.
The first stupid question has come to my mind. Is it set in 2026?
Do we have mobiles? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, what era? Is it particularly an area-sensitive game, or is it?
Well, there are versions of it where you can be in like a more Norman period or Victorian age. But yeah, by default, you would typically run it in the modern times. So yeah, you would have phones, I'd say.
I always set them in the 80s, and because that's where I live.
They have leg warmers instead of phones.
Because vampires can be assault, but immortal, assumably, in this too. The idea that we've been turned into vampires quite recently. So or could we think of somebody from the 60s or somebody from
19s,
Victorian age, of the 90s? You want to
older?
Yeah,
I would suggest recent, you've been recently embraced and you're fairly new to the supernatural world, because as we're all sort of most of us were in that field of like new to vampire or don't have much experience with it. It would be a rather nice idea, I think, that you could learn about the setting and the world in character, and thus learn about it as a player as well. So it's a very organic way of learning the setting.
Right. But we can be any age when we're turned. We don't get younger when we become vampires, we retain the age in which we were turned.
Yeah, basically. So if you embrace as a 16-year-old, you're going to look like that for the rest of your life.
If you want to come from an era, my Nos on a Tuesday game, he was embraced at the end of the Second World War. But then he was put in torpor, like stalled, until he was let loose in the 20th. So everything is shiny and new, pictures have colours, everything.
Oh, so yeah, you could do that and still sort of play that sort of naivety with the world, and things are going on.
Before I chose it, really.
But then he's going to have to show wonder every time he sees a bit of modern technology, isn't he, too? So
like John.
that was one of the reasons.
Because the thing with Vampire the Masquerade, and to an extension, all the World of Darkness games, with vampires, you are, yes, a vampire amongst a load of humans. The really key important thing with most games of vampire, there are exceptions to this rule, you're trying to uphold some semblance of your humanity. There's an actual humanity tracker on your character sheet. And basically, the more monstrous things that you do, that number is going to be going down. There's like part of a poem that ends with the line, "A beast I am, lest a beast I become." And it's this battle between the memory of your humanity, because you're not human anymore, you're vampires, and the monster that the literal beast inside you wants to be. And there are mechanics in the game where if you're near sunlight or fire, or you're really hungry and you see blood, there's a chance that your cat can frenzy and just becomes a feral animal, and you would just run or devour depending on the circumstance.
We're going to be trying to keep in touch with our humanity. We're not good guys. We're anti-heroes. Would you say? How does that?
Well, there's the expression to something that the effect of every freedom fighter, someone else's terrorist, right? So you are your own heroes, your own protagonist, but you're going to be somebody else's villain, both in and without your own faction.
Right.
Whether your coterie, which is your group of vampires, are a member of the anarch movement who are against the fascist regime that is the Camarilla or the Ivory Tower, which is like the main government that uphold all the different rules, like the concept of the masquerade, the titular masquerade, where you're trying to blend into human society.
What's the difference there between the sects? Was that?
The factions, the sects, The anarchs, as the name would imply, they are anarchists. They're part of a movement that are trying to tear down the vampire establishment and bring in more of an equality and equity amongst vampires and humans. The establishment in this instance being the Camarilla, which is basically a proto-fascist vampire government that decided how things are going to be working out for the last 500-ish years, which that's more the Anne Rice element of vampires, like the elders of the vampires have always been behind the scenes. Again with the anarchs, but that's like the more punk element. Regardless to where you are, you're at the bottom fighting back against the establishments whilst trying not to get killed by any and everything around you. But yeah, it really depends what floats your goat, really, the sort of story that you want to tell, who and what's going to be hated upon you. And also your clans as well, because the clans have got different relationships as well. And the clans being, to do a very bad example, you could describe them to like ancestries or races in D&D. It's a bit more nuanced than that because each of these different clans have got their own lore and metaplot and relationship with the other factions within the world of darkness and the clans as well. So more like supernatural bloodlines more than everything else. They all come from the same place, that place being the biblical Cain. He is described as the first vampire within the world of darkness.
Check out RPG Blokes Plus. It's our premium service where we give you the opportunity to help pay our bills. And we're guaranteeing you an episode every week, exclusive live plays and interviews. Now that's got to be worth £3 of anyone's money.
RPG Blokes Plus. Regular episodes for a regular you.
Right. And we're all going to be different clans, assumably, to give some variety to our characters. But do all the clans get on? I mean, is there any clashes here? PvP is a big thing by the sound of John's laugh.
Some clans get on better with each other, but all the clans to some degree hate each other.
I'll say for the purpose of this, perhaps we should all be the same clan, only because, you know, I don't know how you want to run it, Lord by Night, because, you know, we're obviously doing a session 0 here. And if we all kind of argue which clan we want and settle on the same one, it might actually be a bit quicker to create all the characters and get...
Listen, like, the only thing that I noticed when we was going through all the messages was in terms of prep, at least have an idea of what clan you want to be, and that's the only thing I've done.
And we can all be that clan.
I don't want to impose of what you can and can't be. I'm presuming from our conversations we're either going to be of the Camarilla or the Anarchs. What was the clan that you had in mind, Barry? Because I do have 2 exceptions to that, just because of like a difficulty hurdle, and also they're sort of a line of a sect that we're not interested in for players at the moment.
I fancy the Gangrel. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Yep. But yeah, Gangrel's great. For those who don't know, Gangrel's one of the clans, and they have a more independent vibe, like a sort of feral animal wanderer sort of thing. They have a unique discipline called Protein, where they can shapeshift into different animals. And also with certain levels, they can turn into mist and like become one with the earth. So it's pretty neat power.
I don't know. You're gonna have to run through all the clans for us. Barry's clan did sound good, but
what did Barry pick?
Yeah, Gangrel.
Gangrel.
All right. And again, I don't have a problem if like 1 or 2 of you want to be the same. So I'm going to run through them from top to bottom, so alphabetical order. And I will mention if some of them are more difficult than others. But again, if it vibes with you, you do whatever. So number 1, we have the Assamites, who are Middle Eastern, stereotypically assassins. They have their own clan structure. They're more of an independent party, but they are contracted in by other factions of vampires to go and do their busy work. They're fun to do. As I said, they're one of the more independent parties, and because of how involved their clan structure is, and pretty much how everybody hates them for lore reasons, it can have some difficulty for them. But if that's something you want to vibe with, I shan't stop thee. You've got the Bruja or Bruja, depending on who you ask. They are your stereotypical rabble rousers and like the face of the Anarch faction sect of Vampire the Masquerade.
I just saw Barry light up there. I don't think he read that bit.
No, that was literally, John. That it was between those 2 for me. Okay, God's honest truth. It was between those 2, and you know me so well.
Well done for not being predictable, though, Barry. That's good.
I would have lost money on that, seriously.
Listen, I've got a formula for having fun, and it works. All right.
Good, I love it.
The Bruja are, as I started to say, all the different clans have their own different weaknesses. The Assamites, they're not being able to drink vampire blood, which might sound like a bad thing, but there's again, lore reasons. I'm not going to go into that at this moment. You can get the PDF on Drive Through RPG. The Bruja, their weakness is that they are more prone to frenzy. They are stereotypically described as the angry clan, and they get angry, and they flip out more or whatever. I like to think because their weakness is more like as a fiery passion, the nature of like rising to the challenge, as it were. That's just, and combined with their supernatural beast within them, and that's more like a keg constantly exploding sort of thing. I feel very passionate about that subject. I did a whole video talking about that, how to play the Bruja. You can find that on my channel. Okay, plug over.
I might actually watch that in between the session 0 and the session, because I'm going for Bruja at the moment. I like the sound. Yeah.
Also, there's an affiliate link if people click on your site to buy stuff from Storytellers Vault or Drive Through, isn't there?
Well, we can add that affiliate link, your affiliate link, to this podcast.
Cool. I appreciate that. I'll dig that up somewhere. Cool. The next clan are the Setites, otherwise known as the followers of Set. The Setite is the internal name. The followers of Set is what everybody else calls them. And I bet you have no idea what their ideology is. They are vampires who believe that the founder of vampires isn't the biblical Cain, that it's actually the Egyptian god Set.
Splitters.
They are tricksters, they're manipulators, deceivers. They are the ones that are going to probably get you into sex trafficking, the drug trade, lots of interesting power and influence. They have a variation of the protean discipline I mentioned earlier on called Serpentis, which is far more snake focused. And because they are such close ties to Set, their clan weakness or curse, their strain of the curse, they find it a bit more difficult being in sunlight and direct light as well, which you might think, well, obviously vampires can't do light. But again, Set's lore, both in and out of Vampire the Masquerade, is to do with darkness. So that sort of ties in rather nicely there. We've got the Gangrel, as I've mentioned before, so I won't go through that again. Got one of my favourite, another independent clan. The Setites are usually seen as an independent clan as well. The Giovanni, they are mobsters, they're necromancers, and people like to poke fun of their lore because there's a fair amount of incest in their makeup, because they have their own particular human semi-vampire families called revenants. They like to keep things within the family. That has the strongest of the mafia vibes within the world of darkness. That's been played up a fair amount over the years. But the thing that I like about them the most is the mob vibes and necromancy. So if you want to integrate some ghosts into the games, that might be one worth having. And as I know I'm mentioning these independent ones a lot, if you're worried about, I said Camarilla and Anarchs, and now we're throwing in these independents as well, how's that going to work? There are ways that we can make like a particular independent clan wants a bit more of an influence on a sect in the particular city or town or whatever. So there are ways of making it work. I'm not going to like siphon those off for you. I'll skip the L one just because it's typically not seen with the Camarilla or the Anarchs, but I will mention it at the end just because of the sense of completeness. You've got one of the more controversial clans now, the Malkavians, who throughout the years have been described as the crazy clan. They are cursed by madness. Now, madness over the years, both in and out of the world of darkness, has taken many different shapes or forms. There would be a point in history where if you felt depressed or hysteria or just, to some extent, a little ill, you'd be described as mad. Because of the definition of the word that's changed over the years. Now, within the world of darkness, the Malkavians are described as being absolutely crazy and batshit. And there's a trope within the world of darkness community that describes a type of player who plays up like the mad elements of them referred to as a fish milk, which comes from one of the Dark Ages book where there's a portrait of a Malkavian kissing a fish. So we tend to try and avoid mad for mad's sake, or like a Joker stand-in. In the old editions of Vampire, there are different derangements that you can choose. Well, as with all different stress and mental conditions, that anybody within any walk of life can obtain them, as it were. But the Malkavians, again, a permanent one that they can never shift. That's like their clan weakness. Rolling back a little bit, the Giovanni's clan weakness is that usually when you bite somebody referred to as the kiss, because it's all like Anne Rice romanticized, it feels very euphoric. It's like the best fucking orgasm sort of thing they've had in their life. The Giovanni don't get that. When they bite people, it hurts all the time. And back to the Malkavians, theirs is like a supernatural madness, and they have like this heightened foresight. They were often used as seers in older courts in yesteryears, but that's a lore die for a different time.
There is a reason for the Malkavian's madness. It's because they see all of time.
Yeah.
So it's a bit
They
more
have
like a river from Firefly. If you was going to play something like that, I think would be a good way to do it. You know, you're not like Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. You're just too open, and you've got to have that off the book structure to keep you going.
But you think,
Yeah,
do you think that that particular clan doesn't work very well in the game? It shifts the narrative too often. Does it have in sort of a strong insanity?
No,
of
it's
play?
just how you
Yeah.
play it. Like I
Yeah.
said, there's no point
Yeah.
in being the character that's always in the rubber room. Murdoch from the A-Team might be a bit of an extreme version.
Yeah, it's more players misinterpreting the clan and taking things a bit too far and just being a bit silly with it rather than the concept itself. Sure, there is, like, going back to that thing about White Wolf getting the shtick for like integrating real world topics and the like. Could they've handled that sort of thing a bit more sensitively? Yes, if you don't consider the fact that they came out in the early 90s and those sort of things weren't talked about very much anyway. It's been a bit better over time. But there is always going to be that little bit of stigma because of its history and conversations things. But basically, it's more the player playing up the wrong elements of things and just being, as it was put, like being in the rubber room all the time and just crazy for crazy's sake. Like we like some substance there, that inner turmoil with the mental and emotional psyche on top of all the other things.
It sounds like a fun one to play. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance there, and they do have their fans and admirers as well, which I really appreciate, that people turning something that historically was bad and then making good things out of it. The next clan is the Nosferatu, who was mentioned already. They're my favourite clan. They're basically Count Orlok. In terms of appearance, they are the most hideous and the monstrous of all the vampires, so they're going to be sticking out like a sore thumb. But of course, depending on how much you want to like play up or play down like that physical element of things, they could just be like a really monstrous goblin looking thing, or they may just look like 1 in 100 people you see who are like covered in tattoos, massive earplugs, split tunnel, all the rest of it. Where some people might not know, they might just somebody who looks weird, but those in the know might be able to put 2 and 2 together. But the Nosferatu have a power called obfuscate, which does allow them to hide from plain sight, and at higher levels they can assume the appearance of somebody else. And the thing to remember with the obfuscate is that it's not like an invisibility power. It's like tricking the mind into thinking that there is somebody else there or that there is nothing there.
Not everybody would see that. Then if they use that, then they might only convince of a crowd of people, only a few of them.
No, it does. It definitely has its flaws. The 2 powers that allow you to like disappear from eyesight are like the first 2. The first one allows you to like vanish from sight, providing that you're standing still or walking very slowly. And then the second one allows you to do that. You're just able to keep up like a normal walking pace. And typically when that happens, to initiate it, you can't have somebody looking at you, but there's like a power later on where you can now do that when somebody is facing you.
And these are just types of the Nosferatu, or is that all vampires get to do those things?
That's all vampires with that specific power.
Okay.
Because all the different clans have 3 powers that's inherent to their bloodline, but you can learn other ones, and there's a whole system in place to learning that.
Yeah.
But the Nosferatu have that as one of their core 3, which I think is pretty essential, given to what they are.
The process of turning us then would create the monster, or would. So how does that work? Because I always imagine you can, because you say if you're a 16-year-old child, you're then that for forever. How does the Nosferatu become so ugly and horrible within that process?
There's a variety of different lore reasons to describe that, and of course this is the White Wolf. It doesn't have like one straight answer. It relates to their founder, who for one reason or another, he was a hunter, he was a bit vain, and he was punished. First because, a part of his embrace that he was in a hunt, he was tricked or whatever, and he got a little cut on his face, and he was a bit of a narcissist, which turned like him into an inner monster, and then he became a bit of a dickhead. And then through biblical reasons, Cain goes on a trip, comes back, realizes that a load of shit's happened, and he curses that founder to look like the monster that he's become.
If I'm like a normal person, I'm a good-looking 20-year-old young man, and I get turned by a Nosferatu vampire, I then at that point become monstrous in appearance. Is that how that applies to that
basically,
character?
Yeah, you die, you're losing your blood. He then drains a fair amount of their blood into you. So you've got that Nosferatu blood circling around you, and that particular strain of the blood sort of begins to twist bones, limbs to grow shorten, misshapen, and just completely change you appearance-wise.
And you get to choose all of those things. You get to choose your appearance.
Yeah, you can totally customize that to however you want. Yeah.
One of the ways they choose a new lick is to, if someone is vain, the TikTok model, the face, the pretty one, and it's taken down a peg or two by turning them into an Nosferatu.
Yeah, I like that as a character.
It's a bit toxic, but
yeah, it's good. And then you've got a character that's having to deal with that at all times. You know, if they are narcissists or very vain, then they're gonna. That's the worst thing that could happen to them. Of all the vampires that could have got me.
The Nos are very much a community-based bloodline. One from the Anarchs will actually be okay with a Nosferatu from the Camarilla, even though their organisation are at odds. They know stuff. You've got your researchers and everything else. They're really good.
Yeah, it's how they obtain their power, because they can't do it face to face for the most part, like everybody else can. They have to be a bit more secretive, and like knowledge is power, as I said earlier on. And there's a lot of variety you can do with them, and I just have a lot of fun with them. There's the Ravnos, which I've mentioned a bit about already. By the time that Revised comes along, which is the edition that we're looking at, attempts have been made to make the Ravnos more than just the Roma folk clan. Like, their weakness is to like giving into different vices or whatnot, which again plays into some negative Roma folk tropes. Some of the developments that they had with their setting is that they would end up ruling India, and they would adapt and adopt the various caste systems as well. But the thing with the Ravnos to remember is that they are wanderers. They can't really sit still, not because of anything in their blood, but because of the associations they have with different people in their life. They do wander, they are passionate, they do listen, but because of their vice-based weakness, they do have a bit of a poor rep amongst everyone, and there's certain things that happen within the lore that ends up nuking most of them out of existence. At this point in the setting, there aren't too many of them left, but if that's something you wanted to try and explore, I think that could be a lot of fun. There's the Toreador, which I've talked about in an example already. They're your artistes. They claim to be the ones closest to their humanity, but it's all very vain and petty. They get really focused on one thing, and then they move on to the next sort of thing when they get bored of it. And each Toreador's got like a form of art they really do appreciate. And their weakness is like, if you are encountering that specific art form, like you have to make a willpower roll, or you spend a point of willpower to physically move yourself away from it. They're a lot of fun to do. There's a lot of very cruel ways you can adapt the word art.
Yeah, that does sound tempting.
You're going to have a rock musician, Stephen.
No, what rock? An emo. He used to be an emo band. Maybe from South Wales. Something like that.
Nice.
What? No, you're not going to model it on that bloke that just...
Oh, no, not here. There's plenty from that way. That's true. But yeah, okay, yeah. It's formulating.
Okay.
That's cool.
You're going to get stereotypes, Stephen, on this. You know what I mean?
No, it's true. It comes to my mind, though, so I'm going to stick with it.
You have the Tremere, who are, to put it very basically, they are your vampire wizards. They practice in blood magic, otherwise known as thaumaturgy. Again, stereotypically, very rigidly part of the Camarilla, but they are clan first before sect. They have a whole pyramid scheme that is literally called the Pyramid, and they perform some really cruel and monstrous experiments throughout their history. They are a clan that did not exist in the beginning. They actually came about because some mages came along and thought, we are losing our power, we need to do something about this. And one dude had the idea, essentially kidnapping and torturing different vampire clans together, brewing up a potion, and then their founders just took a big old swig of it, and then they became vampires and embraced everyone.
So, like with most systems, magic tends to complicate a player's part in the game. Does that apply in Vampire 2? That'd be a more challenging character clan to play.
But yeah, there are some extra steps to keep in mind, and there's a rigidity to the Tremere that, well, some games masters or storytellers, as it's referred to in the White Wolf games, can lean a lot into that, which can make things a bit rigid. But I've also seen games masters who are so loose with it that it doesn't really exist anyway. So pretty similar with the other vampire disciplines, but it has some extra steps involved. And then the final one, with like the basic bunch, as it were, you have the Ventru, who are like, if the Bruges are the ones at the front of the Anarch movement, the Ventru are the ones that are generally seen as the front of the Camarilla.
And each of these clans are very clearly separated by being part of the Camarilla or the Anarchs. Do they cross over some of these?
Yeah, there's definitely not crossover. So when I'm saying that different clans belong to different of these different sects, I'm speaking from a stereotypical view, because technically speaking, everyone belongs to the Camarilla unless you're not, because that's how much of a dictatorship that they are, that everyone is part of the Camarilla, or no, the Anarchs would say differently. So as I was saying, the Ventru, who are sort of like your kings and rulers, they're the ones who usually take up the role of prince in a Camarilla city, or domain as it's called. You'll find most Ventru in a Camarilla domain, but you would also find Ventru in the Anarchs, and you would also find Bruja or Bruja in the Camarilla, even though most of them are within the Anarchs, for example.
Right.
If you typically want to have a character that has a lot of money, a Ventru is a good option, or Toreador, if that's something you're interested in. But you could also do the flip side of things. Like the first vampire character that I ever played, I was a Ventru mobster ruler, and I had like a gang under my control.
That was your first character. Yeah.
Doesn't mess about.
No. Into the deep end, yeah.
It surprised people because they associated the concept with a different clan, but then I just like flipped the script around a little bit, just to be a bit more interesting with it. And whereas the Venture usually are the ones behind the scenes, like having people do their work for them, I was very much on the front line doing all the hard work, which again, they've got powers to like take on the brunt of that, but they've also got powers to convince people to do what they want them to do. Like that Aura one I described from the Toreador earlier on, they share the same power, but depending on the character and the clan you're going to be using, you're going to be using it in different contexts.
So now you've given us all the clans, I suppose for the sake of the podcast, each of us should make our choice. And
So first of all, it looked quite straightforward and fighty, and we all know that I am a quite straightforward and fighty guy. But also in the description was the word nomadic, and I kind of quite like the idea of, like in D&D, you're kind of always nomadic, but you're kind of collectively nomadic. The party goes everywhere together. I kind of quite like the idea of playing like a drifter.
a murder hobo, you mean?
But I also feel like it's a classic vampire trope as well, and I'm leaning into that. Not even getting into towns and stuff properly, just mooching around in the suburbs.
You said the Bruja was your other choice, because that one seems to have that sort of
I
qualities
think
too.
naturally you guys would have thought that I was going to go for that one because of my politics, because of my and like, yeah, I'm feeling like maybe try something a little different.
Yeah.
Growing.
Sorry, John, what was that? Was it
It says he's growing. We knew it could happen.
patronising? It's all so fucking wholesome, isn't it?
Yeah. Go on, Stephen, to describe your emo guitarist.
Yeah, I like the idea that he's close to humanity. I think that's what's described as well. Maybe passes human still.
What plan was that, Stephen?
The Toreador, I believe. The artiste, the vocalist, guitarist from an emo punk band from the maybe early 2010s. So he's got stuck in that kind of era. Always thinks the band's going to come back.
We're putting the band back together. I love it.
I think his name will be Eddie something or other. Eddie Monday, probably.
Was he the front man?
Yeah, well, he would be just sort of guitarist vocalist he had on all his credits. So maybe he would have had some success in the band. So maybe that means he had some money put behind him. I don't know. But so he had sort of like maybe a small following, potentially. Probably never made the jump. Maybe on MySpace, he still thinks that's the thing. He hasn't quite made the jump to social media. So
Are the rest of his band still alive?
No, yeah, probably. Maybe because the band obviously had to split up. So maybe there's a reunion tour in the pipeline. Maybe in his mind there is, but obviously there's not.
Are the rest of his band human?
Well, yeah, that would be weird, wouldn't it? Yeah, I assume they are. And he just fell out with them. Yeah. But they all got proper jobs. They're all working in the city now with suits on. But he still looks the same.
I'm going to go next, right? Because I've only got one choice. And if John nicks mine, then I'm fucked. So I'm going to go. I'm going to get in there quick. I'm going to go with the Bruja. I'm going to link in with your character, Stephen.
Okay.
I'm going to be your roadie.
The drummer.
Roadie.
The drum. No, I'm going to be the roadie because I'm going to be your roadie. I've got no talent because I just shift things around.
We know.
But, so
you help the talent, which is us.
Yeah, I'm just your guy. You can just get me to do things.
Yeah, we've got lots of flight cases with random stuff in it.
Bodies
in this day and age, yeah, with the old labels of the old band name. I come up with a band name. Yeah,
this used to be Mike's, and Mike's now inside. Yeah, so I'm going to have a Bruja. I'll do that. So it's an anarch, and no respect to authority. It's complete opposite to the He'd be one of these people, Lord Banai, that doesn't believe that he has any affiliation to the Camarilla at all. He thinks he's completely free spirit. They've got no hold on him, and he'll obviously get taught a lesson at some point. that can't be true. And so I'm going to play just a tough guy who likes carrying around instruments and blank bases.
Yeah.
So, John, I'm wondering what you're going to go with.
Between you and Barry, you've nicked both the ones that I would have gone for. You tried to branch out.
John, just to be clear, I don't know about Mark, but I take some pleasure from that.
That's fair. So, oh dear, how sad. Never mind. I will revert to the Fact Hunk persona and a Nosferatu, because I fucking love them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to branch out, but nope, sod it. Double down on the thing I know.
You know.
I like the idea of this particular Nosferatu doing some freelance murdering. So he keeps his humanity intact, and I'm aware that I have binge watched Dexter earlier this year. So there might be a bit of that involved. But it's taking out the bad guys, looting the bodies. That's how he maintains his things. But it will be finding stuff out. Yeah, I'm not going to be stuck in the library again. I'm thinking a private detective might be a good front out for the late hours and the creeping out. Oh, he might have been turned by... He was put on a case that wasn't what he thought it was. That went poorly. But the Nosferatu that he was put onto, possibly wrongly, appreciated the work ethic and the trying to do the good thing. So it's maintaining that, but with the link to a whole different underground network of informants and other such.
Yeah, and from what you're all sharing, I'm getting it's a slight impression that we're all like a very anti-establishment group, that being with the Camarilla isn't much of an interest to this party, so it's either going to be you're defecting to the Anarchs or you're already well established with the Anarchs. What floats your boat? What's more of an interest to you? Are you more interested in fighting back against the Camarilla, or do you like wanting to get out? I mean, what tickles your fancy?
I mean, everyone knows what I'm going to say. It's fight back, isn't it? It's like I don't need to open my mouth there. I could have, yeah. I mean, for me, gentlemen, I would much rather be that, we're trying to join, we're trying to fight back, we're trying to make a difference for whatever reason.
Trying to prove ourselves. Maybe this is our moment with I don't know what we'd do as anarchists. We'd blow something up. We would have to know each other already, wouldn't we, as well, to kind of team up.
Or our sires might.
Yeah,
that's a bit of a cheat code, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, I'm sort of cooking some ideas as the conversation happening of how this could all work rather nicely. So just to make sure that I fully understand, at this moment, when we start the thing, you'll be part of the Camarilla, but through shenanigans, you're fed up with it, and then you're going to try and prove yourself and then fight back. Fuck you, Camarilla.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Do you still be playing gigs? Still, your character could still be...
Yeah, nighttime ones. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
The Darkest Crypts.
It's a Sunday afternoon pub covers band, but yeah.
No, I'm not doing that anymore. No, it's far too cool for that.
Piano Man! Slow Piano Man!
You could be
like
like...
Oasis.
Yeah, no, you could be no Oasis. You could be the Oasis covers band.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
He hasn't gone there yet.
So maybe we're still playing gigs, because that would make more sense.
Yeah, go solo. The rest of the band aren't interested.
Yeah, if it could start in a sort of an underground music venue in whichever city, as John said. Where are we going to be in the world?
Or American?
Well, unless there's a preference, I haven't decided yet. But with the music scene, I could throw you on Chicago, because that is an established city within the world of darkness. That's got quite a lot of moving parts in there. There's a thriving music scene. There's a handhold of vampire-focused bands in that setting as well. So a bit of rivalry might be interesting, especially as you're defecting from one sect to another.
Sounds good. Yeah, that would work with me. Stephen, you're the muso. You know the Chicago music scene as a player.
Seattle, I know a bit more nowadays, but Chicago, I don't. But I'll look into it.
So that's me and Stephen sorted out. That John and Barry will have to figure out a way to be at one of our gigs.
I'll go hard-boiled detective area, isn't it? That works. So all the good stuff is set there, from Dresden to Stacey Keach's Mike Hammer and all of those. Thought you can't.
I can come up with a way or two to have all your characters meet together and make the music theme work as well. Yeah, you lot are going to be all right. I'm really looking forward to this.
We need some music, Stephen, as well. Put some music on in the background when we do the scene, something.
Get some late 2000s emo. Yeah.
All right, so you got Bruges. Well, these things at the top of the character sheet. Then we've got which ones do we need to be considering? So our sire is the person that sired us. Is that an integral part of the character generation? Is something that we decide, or is that something you as a storyteller bring to us?
Well, it depends. Sometimes with some games, I have decided you don't know who has embraced you because of the reasons regarding the setting. Sometimes the players give me a whole fucking novel about their backstories.
Yeah.
And the intricately toxic relationship between sire and child being you, the one who made you, or sometimes people call it chilled. If you have an idea about the person that embraced you, you can write down a name there. Or if you want to not know who your sire is, that's also an option as well.
Yeah, bastard vampire.
Yeah, I wouldn't have remembered it, maybe. Yeah.
I like the idea of he's sort of a mentor, but only because he thinks I'm useful, knowing.
John can never turn down a contact, honestly.
But the reason my guy was turned was so that there was a way into the modern setting that the my progenitor just didn't quite get along with. The clicky clacky keys with the box with the glowing lights might be a bit new, so get someone to do that shit for him. So that's an easy way, and because there's a blood bond, it's just not always going to be in form. That's like big stick sort of thing.
Yeah, some vampires go through that, and with a particularly toxic relationship between sire and child, where the blood bond is described like you drink from the wrist usually, and you have a bit of the extra blood in them, and it has a bit more of a supernatural pull and tug over you, so more of your free will is taken away. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with everyone, I want to point out, but in fact, I forgot to mention it. The main weakness that the Tremere have, just lining in with that pyramid structure that I mentioned, that they're all tied supernaturally to their creators. So, but as none of you are Tremere, we're not going to worry about that.
And as we're anarchists, we probably don't want to be tied down to our sires either, do we? I mean, we want to do what we want to do, freedom to act and that. So I'm definitely not going to known my sire. He can always make an appearance, though.
No daddy issues in this game.
I don't mind. I roll with the challenge. I think particularly would not want to see his sire. Could you fight your sire? Are you automatically going to be less powerful than your sire? Is that a given, or because you also mentioned that we can sire other vampires immediately as vampires? That's possible for us to do as well, is it?
I mean, it's usually assumed that your sire has a bit more influence than you do. They embrace you for some reason just to help make them look stronger. And you not knowing your sire would actually play rather nicely into how the bourgeois work, because a lot of them do not know who embraced them because they just go, fuck it. And just bringing more into their cause or whatever, and some just don't care. So that works quite nicely if you're interested in a more accurate reason. But again, it doesn't really matter whether it is or not, as long as it sounds cool.
Yeah, no, I'll go with that. So what's these other things at the top of the character sheet? We've got generation. Is that because we can come from any era or anything like that?
That is basically how many times you are removed from the biblical Cain. And for this, I will make a suggestion of saying generation 13. Like that's the number I would write.
Sounds good.
Is that good?
A lot.
That sounds good. That sounds close.
That's one away from thin blood, isn't it?
A mud blood.
Yeah.
The way that I like to describe generation, because it's one of the things that does trip people up, because depending on how old you are, like different titles assigned to you. Like I've mentioned elder already. John mentioned a while ago talking about a lick, which is like a slur to like brand new vampires. The correct proper term is fledgling. And then if you've been around a little bit more, you're a neonate. It's like 100 or so years, you'll be an ancillor. Then you have your elders. If you're near 1,000 years old, you're considered to be a Methuselah. And then above them, you'd have the vampiric antediluvians, then the near mythical second generation, and then you have Cain. But the way that I like to describe it, because there's a lot of like crunching there. I'm doing that for a specific reason. I'll mention in a moment, because people get confused with like the generation and the blood power. Because you could be embraced by an elder yesterday, but you would still be of the neonate prefix. So the whole generation thing's like how many times you are removing Cain. And if you imagine Cain as like an orange, and then the second generation is like a squished orange, that's why I was doing this. And then each generation beforehand is like has less and less power until you get to what John mentioned a moment ago, who are thin bloods, which, as the name would imply, from generation 14 to 16, you're basically like water flavored orange. Like,
The cordial.
yeah. So generation 13 is like the last run of the ladder that you are considered to be a vampire before you are considered a thin blood. And it's at that point in the Camarilla circles, you're not supposed to be embraced because thin bloods are bad because they are this is going to get weird now. They are a Brynnet of the End Times, according to the vampire holy book that is called the Book of Nod. There's a lot of moving parts in here. There's a lot of fun to digest, but yeah, generation 13 is what I'm going to insist that you put in that little box there.
Good number.
Right. Okay. 13.
It is
So
a
we're
good
not gonna-
number, isn't it?
Good number, I
Who
like
could be
it.
unhappy about 13, right?
We're a bunch of licks. Suddenly Lost Boys come to mind because it starts with these vampires and they're all fucking awesome, aren't they? And then as the film goes on, you realise they're just vampires. There's just been hundreds of them in this town, and
Yeah.
they're not that special after all. But
And they're Bruges, I think, almost canonically.
yeah, that's what they would be. Yeah. So we're that. We just think we're something, but we're not. But this is what this scenario will be about, us sort of making our mark and putting our stamp on
Exactly. And
Yeah.
of course you do have powers and some influence, so you can definitely like overthrow people if you put your mind to it, sort of thing, but there's always going to be somebody bigger, badder, who's going to like take a bigger shit on your day, basically.
Yeah. Is it known? How do you tell somebody's generation without, because it's not stamped on our forehead, is it? Is it something that we instinctively know about each other as vampires? Because what's the difference between us and a thin blood to look at, for instance?
It's a good question. By looking at them, you can't. There's certain power, like there's some blood sorcery powers that the Tremere have access to that can work this out. There's some other powers in Auspex, I believe, that can infer this as well, if I'm not mistaken. But no, you can't tell by looking at them. So you could be looking at somebody who's, I mean, you can make assumptions like, okay, they're in like their mid-20s, that they're dressed fairly modern. They could have been embraced a couple of weeks ago. But then you find out they've actually been walking around the world for 800 years, and this city would not exist without this specific vampire. So there isn't a guaranteed way of telling, but you can make guesses based on powers that are used, powers that you attempt to use that don't work properly, because the power of dominate, for example, doesn't work on a generation that's a lower number for yourself. So you could think that you're going to get this kid to do what you want them to do, but it actually turns out that they're a vampire. But that could mean that they're the same generation of you, a bit lower or a bit higher. So there's no way of telling unless somebody mentions it. In the Camarilla, you have to have the permission of the prince to embrace, so that the sire would have come up to the prince, I want to embrace such and such because X, Y, and Z. And this has been happening for years, so they could do the math in their head to work out how far removed you are from things.
And all that matters. It does. At the end of the day, once you establish that order, those things have significant influence in the hierarchy of the game, the social order. Is it something that's always
in the Camarilla, the most like stingy of circles of the Camarilla, yes. I mean, an Anarch's not going to give a shit about that. Like, if you can fight back, like, they don't give a fuck how old you are, really. Sure, they're a bit more cautious of elders, because they're not quite with it at the times and all of that. But of course, you do have elder Anarchs as well, so that creates a very interesting dynamic there. But it's really in the Camarilla that sort of thing matters. The Ventru, in their clan structure, they expect their clan members to recite the entire lineage back to Cain's.
Yeah.
They're very prestigious and up themselves in that regard. In some instances, yes, it matters a lot, but a lot of times, not really.
I've got a really stupid question, actually. This is like a newbie question. Does Cain still exist? Is he in the game? Has he been statted? Is he there?
Well, it's under a lot of contention, actually. Depends on which books that you read. When White Wolf fell under for the first time, they wrapped all their game lines up with like an end of the world scenario. And for the one with vampires called Gehenna, And Cain is mentioned a few times in here. There's a thing where he has a battle with Lilith. In one of the early vampire video games, he's a taxi driver in LA. It's never confirmed, but with people like going through the game files and whatnot and certain things that are discussed, people have surmised that this taxi driver that you encounter is Cain, which puts a very interesting spin on like wandering around, forevermore. He doesn't have a character sheet, but there's like a famous joke one that looks like the one that you have, but it just literally just got "you fucking lose" in big letters in the middle.
Okay, there's never going to be any other way. There's no one scenario that pitches you against Cain or brings him in a very...
Well, it's one of the ones that I mentioned actually right at the end where you witness Cain battle it out with Lilith. And there are other things that happen in that book where basically God has had enough of Cain not apologizing for stoning his brother to death. So he just decides, I'm just going to weaken every single vampire now and just make them all weaker. So kind of you could go in a fight with him, but he's got all the powers that you could never have. He's still going to be much stronger than everyone else.
That works. I mean, it has to be an air of mystery about him, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I also love the idea of him moonlighting as a minicab driver. That is fucking
it's awesome.
He's probably Uber now. Yeah.
Yeah. Times are hard.
Right, I think we're done on the top. Well, the other things appear to be our choices on nature and demeanour. Those are character choices.
Chronicle, we'll go there also.
Yeah, it's Chronicle. Is that the adventure we're playing?
Yeah, that'll be the name of it. I haven't come up with it yet, so it doesn't really have a name. Nature and demeanour is how is like your core part of your character's personality, and demeanour is how you're going to present yourself to the world, but nature is how you truly are inside. Wow. So, for example, I'll just flick over to the next page. Like one of the archetypes, as they're called, is child. You are a literal child, and so you're viewing the world through this childlike lens. Or it could be that you're presenting yourself as a child, but actually you're just putting on a mask, as it were, this child mask to hide the fact that you've gone through all this really traumatic stuff. John's one could be a good example here. I'm not saying that you do this. I'm just going to use your character as an example. You're saying that you're like a Dexter inspired. It could be part of their act that they could appear to be really young and inexperienced, like, oh, they're not a monster, they're just got horrific fire burns on their face or whatever, and they could intend to be an orphan trying to get people to help them out, and take them to the back and stabby, suck. That's it influences with some role play decisions, but there's also a mechanic based upon which one you choose for your nature, where if you do a certain thing and it's described in the book which one does which, gain a point of willpower back.
Works for you, Joe? Yep. So child is one type. Are there other types we can choose?
There's quite a lot of them. Nature and demeanour comes under archetypes, and there's a whole list of them in the book.
So it's best to just go and have a look.
Yeah, I think so, because there's a fair amount of them.
Right. So we'll have those done by the time we play. So attribute. So we're going to do that today as well.
Yeah, I think we've got time just to at least make a start on things, and then you can invite me to, I don't know, whatever server you have, just like to touch base, so it's easier to get in touch with each other, so I can like help out or whatever. But yeah, your tributes branded into 3 different groups: physical, social, and mental. And that's a cracking of the spine of the book there. Basically, you're going to choose which one of these is going to be your main group, your secondary group, and your tertiary group. And all of these start with 1 dot in the attributes, which I think if you're using the Mr. Gon sheets, they should be set automatically.
Yeah, they're done.
The one exception to that is John specifically, who has a Nosferatu, so you get no dotted appearance. Because
I've already deleted it. Don't worry.
I'm sure you did, but I just wanted to mention it to everybody else. One, because I know there's going to be one person who will just like, oh, you didn't mention such and such. I know. So there's that. So basically, your strength, your dexterity, and stamina and physical. Tribute has charisma, manipulation, and appearance. And mental has perception, intelligence, and wits. And you're going to break these up into, you're going to be adding 7 dots to one group, 5 to another, and 3 to another.
Is there a limit to the amount of dots you can put in one?
I would be a bit suspicious if you fill one group up so it's 5, just because it just might look like you're a bit of a power gamer, and depending on how you do things, I might be a bit questioning. So 4 is typically like the peak of human potential.
I've got 4 in perception, so I figured career-based.
Makes sense, being a detective.
Intelligence and wits, I levelled out at 3.
So there's a maximum of 8 dots here, which is way more than that you're going to be putting in.
That's when you're a lower generation and you've got blood to spend and all sorts of other.
For each one of these. Okay.
This is already interesting, isn't it? Like from a role play perspective. So I was like, I'm leaning into the grifter thing. Every one of those could be primary for a different archetype of grifter.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? So straight away, I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't know what to do.
So, well, your talents and skills and stuff will probably more come to the fore.
I'm definitely going to go physical with my 7, and strength makes sense because I carry stuff about, right? So I need to be strong. So if you're not happy with me putting 5, I'll go with 4 dots in strength, which is 3 of my 7 points, right? Because you get the first one for free. Is that how it
They all start with 1 point, and then it's they all start with 1 point, and then you get an additional in total.
Okay.
5, 3.
So I'm going to put 3 in stamina and 1 in dex. I don't think it'd be particularly dexterous.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
because if you're carrying lots, you're going to be able to have to hold those for a long amount of time.
Yeah,
especially with the drum and the bass is always turning up late and taking forever to set stuff up.
That's right.
That doesn't sound targeted. It does.
It's a real world experience come through there, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is it? So that's my physical is definitely going to be my max. So Stephen, you'll be on the social side, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I put 3 also. 4 appearance. So I think that hair takes a lot of hairspray to get coiffured.
The fun thing with being a vampire with any appearance that when I say that you get locked into place on your embrace, I mean that with everything. So if you embrace with all your hair done up at its prime, it's stuck like that.
Oh, wow. Excellent. So no have to re-dye it. That's awesome.
No.
So black with a purple streak in it. It's always been.
But does he have to carry on using hairspray, or does that?
No, it's there.
It's just there.
Awesome.
If you decide one day to cut it off or change the hairstyle, you can, but it's going to grow back exactly the way it was when you wake up the following night.
Perfect.
In real life, that would be brilliant. You could try a new hairstyle every night and just reset. I want that.
But whereas you like the other hairstyle, you have to wear wigs. I think mental would be my least. Not the cleverest person.
I'm going to go against the stereotype of a roadie here. I'm going to put my second lot in mental.
Thinking man's roadie, is he?
Yeah, he doesn't use his intelligence, but he's got intelligence.
He can count past 2.
Yeah, check 1, 2. Check, that's what you need. How would you differentiate wits from intelligence, Lobbenite? How's that?
Wits is rather having your wits about you, like being. It's different from perception because perception. I know you said intelligence, but this is the way that I'm going to answer the question. Sorry.
Okay.
Perception is like you're viewing, you're seeing, all to do with the different senses. Intelligence is your knowledge, and wits is more like a reflexive sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably what he would be about that, I think. And perception. He's a bouncer. He does a bit of that in the gig as well, stopping people, crowd surf. See somebody is no good. Takes them out back.
Take them out back.
Beats the shit out of them and lets them back in through the front door again. Charges them again. Okay, so perception and wits, I think.
4, 5.
There's 3 points in social. Appearance, bear. Well, he's going to look pretty cool. No, roadies look like shit, don't they? I don't know.
Although, normal. It's up to you. Could be a roadie that's into the scene or...
Yeah, okay, I'm a roadie that's into the scene. No charisma.
A failed bass player, then it'll be fun.
No, actually, a bass player could be. He's your backup.
Well, I suppose you got music techs. Yeah.
I've got my own band. Yeah. It's no. Yes.
Also, you're not locked on with these points. You've got things called freebie points that will come up later.
Yeah, and depending on what you want to add, you have to spend a certain number of points, etc.
All right. I'm done. How's the rest of you looking?
Am I right in thinking that everybody's filled all their bits and pieces out?
Yeah, just done it, yeah.
Well, the attributes, yes.
Right, so it's a similar sort of thing with abilities now, but you've got a few more points to throw at things. So with your primary grouping, you've got 13, that's 1 free. The second one has 9, and the third one has 5. The other catch is that nothing at this point can go higher than 3. And that's not me being a dick. That's like part of the ruling system here. And as John mentioned earlier, with freebie points, you can make some of those go up to 4 later on. But at this point, nothing is to go higher than 3.
So the list of skills, are they underneath the attribute that they're associated with, or are they just all over the place? I'm just trying to see how this
Oh,
is
they can just go all over the place. Yeah, I mean,
and
they're
all over the
typically
place.
associated with like the talents goes with physicals and skills, but there are different ways of being flexible with this. For example, charisma and animal ken. There's some vampire powers that allows you to talk and interact with animals, but you could also use intelligence and animal ken to see what's wrong with the animal, like why it's injured, and obviously intelligence comes from mental.
So we sell it to you. That's something that we say we'd like to. This combination works because we're approaching the situation like this. Is that part of the gameplay?
Yeah, like using that last example, like if I, for whatever reason, throw you a dog in your way and it's limping, and you may ask me, can I work out why this dog is limping? So yeah, sure, give me intelligence and animal ken, and then you would roll the dots that you would have in that. For example, if your character's good with guns, typically you would use dexterity and firearms to fire your guns, but you could, again, may want to show off your knowledge with guns. So that could be intelligence and firearms. And so you could like make it look like you're coming across knowing what you're talking about. I know I use intelligence again, but it's just to show that there are different ways of applying these different abilities. So it's not like I'm going to limit you to, you can only do a skill with a social skill, because that's like in the same column.
I'd imagine there could be quite a lot of rules lawyering going on with this, where a player is determined to get the benefit of one of their stronger attributes at all times and relate that to a skill. You as as an experienced storyteller, you probably bat those away quite easily by now. Is that something that's a feature of the game?
Yeah, I've had a fair amount of that, but the really interesting thing is, because of how character focused the Vampire the Masquerade is, that I don't see that as much as I do with other games. I have encountered it a few times, but it's usually coming from those who are jumping directly off Dungeons and Dragons, where they're sort of treating it as that similar sort of mindset. But yeah, I've had a fair amount of people that are, like, look at their sheet and think, okay, there's a fine line between like, I'm making this character archetype that they're good as this and that, and it's like, okay, you are clearly in it for winning, which isn't what the World of Darkness is about.
Yeah, so it's the people that get it how it works. They're not really worrying about that. They're just playing their characters through, and everything just falls into place naturally in that case.
Yeah, warts and all.
So the distribution of points here, they split between the talent, skills, and knowledges. Yeah,
yes.
Is that the case? Right,
mm-hmm. Yep, 13, 9, and 5.
So I can have 13 in. I might just go left to right.
Yeah, I can see that working well for your character.
Yeah, okay.
They're being very physical.
13. We're definitely going high in brawl.
Yeah.
You said that can go no higher than 3.
Correct. Yes. As John said, there's freebie points later on where you can add further dots, and there are different points you can spend on things.
Of course, it's me. There is one little technical question. I've tried saving this particular sheet as a pudder, and with changes, like it says, and all that comes up is a blank sheet. So I've taken a photo of my screen.
Some of the sheets, when you do it that way around, can be a bit buggy. Unfortunately, it's not a you thing. It's like a known problem with all the sheets there for some reason.
Oh well, so it's not me.
Yay! No, it's definitely a John thing.
Well, okay.
a 1,000,000% a John thing.
If we put something in animal ken, could that give us an animal to begin with? Are you happy with this to have an animal?
Yeah, I mean, animal ken doesn't automatically give you an animal, but if it makes sense for your character to like have a pet or something, or make that pet something known as a ghoul, which is like a mortal or an animal that's been fed some of your blood, so it becomes a bit more of a loyal servitor.
Really? Okay.
You could like give your pet cat some of your blood, for example, and you would have to keep doing that over the process of a month. But yeah, you could if you wanted to. I wouldn't stop that, unless you'd be reasonable with it. Like if you want a lion, I'll just tell you to fuck off, but like just be reasonable with it.
I think you might have an animal. I don't know what yet. Maybe torn between a Rottweiler or a gecko. I think
quite the contrast.
Yeah, I think Rottweiler could be useful to guard stuff, because we'd have things in lockups and things like that. So it might not be something he has with him at all times, but he has access to. So this dog, perhaps that's part of the scenario he could go and get. get a Rottweiler or a guard dog of some kind, or a gecko that's just always there. It's nice. Just have it.
Dogs get along with us then, yeah.
I don't know if there's an addition question there, but definitely an anarch. Whereas I think the Camarilla used to have to get permission.
Some princes do require permission to have ghouls. Some you do require, but with Chicago, I do not think either prince, I say either because it's gone like through several different princes throughout the 5 editions. I'm going to have to work out which one I'm going to throw at you, but none of them would care about that.
Cool. So I'm going to put my 5 points into knowledges. I'm going to go, it seems a bit maxi, but I think investigation, but put the 3 in only because he's dealing with live events and just figuring things out, sort of keeping an eye on crowds, things like that, I think. And a couple in medicine, because even though he's a vampire, wouldn't necessarily value life. I think as part of doing a job, an odd job guy around the scene, dealing with people who have had accidents at events or overdosed and stuff like that, he'd have a little bit of the ability to pull people back from the brink.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't know if you've done this already, but I'm just going to make a suggestion because it just come to mind. For general, like, getting readings on vibes and crowds and things, it might be worth putting some points in alertness, which is under talents. Investigation is more like I'm actively looking for something.
Is it? Right, okay.
Yeah, which is useful for your character concept, I will say, but for like a more general reading of people and things, alertness might be a better fit.
I'll do that.
What's the expression? What's expression talent? What's that?
A communication-based one. So if you're trying to convince the prince to give me his pocket money, I'd ask you to do charisma and expression.
Gotcha.
Going back to Wayland's idea, if they were trying to see if somebody who was sneaking in was lying, I could ask them to do perception and expression to get a read on their face, depending on what he was doing, for example.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll put it in alertness. Then I'll take it out of investigation completely. I think I'll up medicine to 3 because I like the idea that he's hands-on when it comes to events. And I'll stick a couple in occult.
Occult is the like supernatural world thing around you. It's not necessarily mean like, oh, I can do like tarot readings and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Occult specifically within this is like the more supernatural world around you. And as fledglings, like young vampires, I would personally recommend not doing anything higher than 1 dot.
Right.
Which is basically, that vampires exist and there are other things around you, but you don't know much more else.
I'm going to go with 1 then. I like the idea that I was a vampire for longer than Stephen's character was. And so I
You think you brought the vampire in that turned me then?
Who knows? But I was a roadie.
One of the groupies that you let through.
I was the vampire roadie you didn't know you had. And I've been working with you for a few years and I've been a vampire. So I know a little bit more. And then you've turned and then somebody turned you. I might not have had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, you just let it through. Drug through groupie session.
And I still the other one in investigation. Right.
Yeah, and of course, just because you as a person may not know like the law and setting doesn't necessarily mean that your character wouldn't know either. So there's that element to think about as well.
Yeah.
So don't worry too much if you think, oh, I want to make this, but I don't know how this would work. Don't worry. I do, hopefully.
That's the toughest one for me, putting it into these knowledges. The other talents and skills are going to be a bit easier for me to do. But the knowledge is having to put the 5 points in there proves the biggest challenge here.
Well, I have to put 3 in performance. I assume that's performing things.
Yeah, musical instruments, giving speeches, that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, definitely go with 3 in that. Bit of expression as well.
I'll put 2 in performance because I'm obviously I think I'm good, but I'm not as good as you.
You never looked signed. That's your problem. Didn't have to work MySpace. I got 3 in computers. So, have your own account and everything.
I had to Google how to do it, but I think I'm going to do my first screenshot.
What's security on skills?
Familiarity with the tools and techniques of picking locks, deactivating car or burglar alarms, hotwiring automobiles, or even safe cracking, as well as countless forms of breaking and entering.
So you've got a different sheet to me then, because I've got larceny. And again...
You have the 20th anniversary edition sheet.
You sent the link for the sheet.
John.
Yeah, that's what I'm using.
John's got the wrong sheet. John, I love you so much. I really do, mate. I've never had anyone make me feel so adequate.
I see that as a good thing. Shut up.
We're all going to be having a bit in firearms, right? we can use guns as vampires.
Yeah, I mean, if
Oh,
we decided that you lot in Chicago, like you Americans, are like you practically born with a sidearm attached to the hip, like.
Okay, right. Because it's quite a lot of points, actually. 9, isn't it? And 13. There's a lot.
Yeah, it does feel quite a lot.
Mm.
And then you start to point the man, it's like, oh shit, I need a couple more.
Yeah.
I'll be a driver as well. I'll do everything.
Well, I can't drive, so just as well. I was relying on that.
Yeah, I can do.
I don't drive, I get driven.
So 13 in talents then now.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume that if you have no dots in drive that you can't drive, but it's more like you need to do something specific, like a chase or whatever. You're just not as good as everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, why not? I presume linguistics is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, knowing different languages. And I'm assuming that you can all speak English, so it's just like every other dot afterwards, it's like an additional language, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would one get to choose an additional language then?
Yeah, it could be whatever you wanted it to be.
And I don't actually have to be able to speak it because that is quite key.
Oh, yeah.
I would assume that we would just role play that in English, but assume that the said
Perfect.
character is speaking in that language.
I like the idea that he's picked up something while he was drifting.
And a language.
Yeah,
I'm done. I'm happy with that. He can brawl and intimidate. Obviously, streetwise in the environment that he's in.
Yeah.
Alert. And a little bit in leadership and athletics and a single point in dodge as well. So that's where my 13s are gone.
So I'm just checking. Has anyone put a single point in empathy?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Underneath,
There we
I think
go.
he has to have some sort of connection with his audience, whether he's quite self-centered, obviously, but he'd have to have some sort of a human touch. You lot, you monsters.
Well, as long as I have one of those cage meshes in front of your screen.
So when you're doing your
Yeah.
music videos, when you look into the camera,
Yeah.
you got to connect with the.
Next. Do I show up on cameras? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you do. There is a clan of vampires that don't show up on cameras I didn't mention earlier on. They are the La Sombra, who have weird, dark, shadowy magic. They are associated with a faction of vampires called the Sabbat. And because of law reasons, I'm saying that a lot, but it's a thing, they don't show up on reflections and on cameras.
Well, I'm glad I do. Yes. Yeah, right. Bugger otherwise, wouldn't it?
That would be a very short-lived television career, wasn't it?
Well, you'd have to find something else to do.
And another limitation with the obfuscate discipline, which I believe the only one who this affects is John with the Nosferatu, is that if he wants to like disappear from sight, it will still pick him up on security cameras and stuff. And if he uses the power that changes the way that he looks, but to look like somebody else, he will look exactly the same on camera. So it's all of the mind rather than a total transformation.
There is another, I don't know if it's another discipline or just really high dots that can change that.
Yes, there is. I can't remember if it's a 5 or it might even be one of the 6 or 7 ones, or that you lot wouldn't have access to, where you basically have godlike power and just get people to forget you even existed. And similar sort of fun shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm presuming everyone's now filled in the dots on the correct version of their sheets.
Yes.
Well,
so.
you
Looks
say correct.
Matter of perspective, yeah.
We then move on to the portion of character creation, and I've just seen the time, so maybe we'll have to do the rest of this later, because I feel this is going to be the most potentially time-consuming, is the advantages section. And we'll start with disciplines, because I think that's the simplest of the one, and possibly conclude with it as well. Disciplines are your blood-based powers. All the different clans have got a set of 3. There's going to be some overlap. Wayland, as a member of the Brujar, you have potence, presence, and celerity. Potence is a supernatural strength. Celerity is a supernatural speed. And presence is that sort of like aura power that I talked about earlier on. And I would encourage to refer to the core book just to see what each of the different dots do. Because again, it's all like 1 dot does this, 1 dot does that. And at this point, you only have 3 dots to spend on your discipline. So you could put all your dots in one discipline, or like 2 in one, or 1 in all of them. Stephen, you have the Toreador. You also have presence and celerity, like Wayland does. But you also have a power called Auspex, which is sort of like a supernatural sixth sense. Like it can heighten your senses, which is like what most people take this power for. So you can like hear better, see a bit better. Not necessarily see in the dark. That's a separate power, which I'll get onto in a moment. Later powers also deal with the more spiritual side of things. So you can get like work out the feelings of people with auras, reading their auras, find out how somebody died by touching the last surface they died on, etc. It can get very spiritual later down the line, but most people tend to pick this one because it has the first dot of heightened senses.
Right.
And with Barry, you have a completely different set. You have animalism, which is the discipline of like interacting with animals, but it also has an abilities later down the line where you can do some funky stuff with the beast and different vampires. The first two powers, summoning animals and communicating with them, like being able to speak like a dog, to use an earlier example. Like you could talk with the Rottweiler that Wayland potentially would own, or the gecko, but you would do so in a way where you're literally barking at them or making whatever fucking noise a gecko makes.
I like that.
The other two that you have Fortitude, which is a supernatural defense. And the other one is your unique power of Protean, which allows you to shapeshift into animals, allows you to see in the dark with the power known as Eyes of the Beast. It might be called something different or revised. Your eyes glow red and you're able to see in the dark, but you can also use that to intimidate people.
Sweet.
I can't remember if it's the fourth or third stop. You can like grow like these powerful feral claws that do extra damage as well. But yeah, those are your three powers: animalism, fortitude, and Protean.
And did you say we've got 3 points to spend across those?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. And John, I know you know yours already, but I'm just going to say it for the audience at home. As the Nosferatu, you have the powers of animalism, which is similar to what Barry has. You have obfuscate, and you also have potence.
Potence is a strength cheat code.
Yeah.
Obfuscate is just stealth. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the one he'll be using for his, I won't say victims, but victim.
But these don't come with any points put in already. You've got to put a point in to have it.
You have to assign a point.
I won't decide yet. I don't think I'll give them a good read.
You've got freebies.
Decide.
Yeah.
And to learn them from other disciplines, that's more a role play and extra XP cost, isn't it?
Yes. If you're wanting to learn additional disciplines, which you can do, because you're not limited to those three, you can, with freebie points and experience points, like purchase extra dots, but you spend extra dots to get them to symbolize that they're not inherent to you. You would have to find somebody who would teach you. So, for example, if John's character wanted to teach Wayland obfuscate, what Wayland would have to do is like take a little sippy from John's character. John would then lecture them and teach them a bit about the power, and then you could learn a dot from that. And then to level it up, as it were, they don't really level up with here. It's not the language that's used, but it's best to understand it. You would spend an additional X number of points to make that better, again, to show that it's not inherent of your clan. So yeah, as you're going to be looking through those in your spare time, I think the rest of the character creation process will be like additional homework, as it were. But I will talk a bit about all of them, just so we'll all have a bit of understanding what we are before we like go through and read the book in our spare time. Background, the sort of like advantages that your character has. So if you resources is one, basically to show how much money that you have, whether you have some contacts or allies. If you've got like a group of people that you feed from regularly, this is a herd. If any of your characters were well known within a domain, you would have a certain status assigned to you, not necessarily by title. But if you're like well known, that's also another background. It's those kind of like character building themes, and obviously the more dots that you have in them, the more well off your character is. And for those, you would have 5, but again, that's all in the book, which you.
They sound like fun to choose. I look forward to looking for those.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to play around with, and the fun thing is that with me at least, you tend to always feel just a little short, but it gives you something to work with.
Okay.
The easiest one to understand, like with resources, like the more dots you have in that, the more well off you are. So no dots, you wouldn't have that much money. 5 dots, you're like one of the richest people in the city, sort of thing.
On your channel, do you have? You've spoken about the individual clans, have you? So if we wanted to dip into your channel ourselves as players now, would we find? You talk about individual clans.
Oh, yes. I will just gloat a little bit. I am probably the only person on YouTube who has broken lore dives on every clan and bloodline, and there's a lot of them. So it took a couple of years to do consistently, but yeah, there are lore dives on all of them if you're interested as a person for all the history and stuff. Your characters won't know all of it. I'd be very surprised if they did. But I've also, in more relation to what we're doing, I have like a how to role play video where I give my thoughts and opinions and combining different elements together, like how you could go about portraying the clans. There's a playlist on the channel called The Bloody Guide to Vampire Roleplay, which you can find for the role-playing stuff. And then for the lore dives, it's VTM clan lore.
It's a great start to have a look at the books myself in between.
Have you guys got character names? Have we done?
Yeah, I've come up with a name, but I'll hold on to it until everyone does.
We're going to do a big reveal, are we? Right?
Well,
God, it's so showbiz.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, indeed.
So thanks, Lord by Night.
Yes,
fantastic.
thank you very much.
Really, honestly, we're going to finish here. I'm going to go straight into the PDF. So I feel as if I've got more time for this in my day. So we'll have a well-rounded character.
I'm going to go straight from this and talk to my consultant.
Oh, Rachel. Is she going to help you out?
I couldn't divulge whether I've been talking to Rachel or not. I mean, I have.
Ray knows her stuff, really does.
He does. Well, listen, I messaged Rachel and I was like, listen, if you was me, I realise that's a horrible thought, but if you were me, what class would you play? And she was like, have a look at these two.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I got to give her the credit.
So when you said you did your own work, you got Rachel to do it for you.
Manipulating people into doing things for you is work.
Okay. Yeah, you can sell it that way. Okay. Lord by Night, do you want to sign off the session in whatever way you like to do?
Sure, I can. First of all, just want to say thank you very much for having me. I'm not entirely too sure how best to sign off this, so I'll do it. And what I do best is just promote my shit. If you've been somewhat interested in who and what I am and want to learn more about the World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade and some of the other supernatural splats, I've done lore dives on the werewolves of Werewolf the Apocalypse. I've covered pretty much every single bit of lore of Wraith the Oblivion. It was cut very short, hence why I was able to do all of it. I also covered Demon the Fallen, which is one of the latest splats, which I'm not prepared to go into because it's a boring lore fest, honestly. But I also do other things. I've done character creation guides. I've done book reviews, do more general things, just like ranting and venting my opinions on things. I've done guides on how I would go about running and playing certain games. So if you're wanting to see more of your lore and save, and go and find me at Lore by Night on the YouTubes. You can also find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Lore by Night VTM. There's also a Lore by Night Discord server where you can come and chat with some of the coolest people within the World of Darkness sphere. It's a very biased take, but I'm going to stand by it. A very open, queer, diverse, mainly neurodiverse space, and very supportive. A lot of us do like the older editions of Vampire, but there's plenty of cool discussions with the newer stuff as well. It's also a great place because it's one of the few places where you can see things as and when they happen. It's probably the best way to get in touch with me directly, that or Blue Sky. And I think that is everything for me to promote.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Jack. We'll leave it to John and you to connect and figure out the next time we meet. Yeah, we can show you our completed characters next time, and we can start looking at the narrative, and you can put things into place for a session 0, character motivations and how we know each other. So we're ready to roll if we ever want to take this one step further and do a full campaign.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, do you think? I know John knows him best, but do you think he's the best qualified for that role?
They make him better. Come on,
Definitely not.
John, I love you really, mate. Comes from a place of love, bruv.
Right, let's all get back on with our afternoons then. Thanks a lot.